Hey, welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and I am flying solo tonight. I hope you guys can hear me all right. If you can't, please let me know over in the chat. We are going to do something we've never done before. We are breaking down the trailer live. We're going to break down the Masters of the Universe trailer live in front of you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm flying solo. We don't got Colton. We don't got Tommy. We've just got us. So it should be a good time. Now, I want to say this is important. If you give us a super chat, we're on a time crunch today because we're also doing the Darth Maul trailer for you guys. I probably won't be able to answer super chats. I will try, but we're going to be here for a tight 30 minutes. And then I got a jet. Doug's got to go to the vet today. So, and we got to get the Darth Maul trailer up. So without further ado, give me just a second and we are going to bring this up. You guys hear me okay? Okay, here we go. Now, first off, a little bit of background for you guys. We've got the Masters of the Universe trailer came out today. Now, if you're like me, you grew up in the 80s, you loved He-Man. Basically, there's a million things happening today, and I still wanted to go through He-Man. So this is all the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the first trailer for Masters of the Universe. Let's get right to it. So He-Man, as you guys know, was based on a very popular toy line in the 1980s. They pretty much put out an episode a day, which is why when you go back and you look at the animation, it doesn't always hold up, but it still has a really strong place in my childhood. I was a massive He-Man fan. There was also a brief revival of it in the 2000s, which was pretty great. Contained one of my all-time favorite jokes when Teela makes fun of Mechanic for not being able to have better powers. And then, I'm sure we all remember this, the Dolph Lundgren movie in the 1980s. Now, that movie, I think, is famous for a couple of different things that I want to bring up. One, it had Courtney Cox in it, a very young Courtney Cox. Two, remember, it mostly took place on Earth, which is bogus and sad, but they did that to save money. It's also got my favorite post-credits tease of all time when Skeletor pops up out of the lava and says, "I'll be back." He was never back. That's when we would do the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia intro. There was also a pretty great revival of Masters of the Universe called Revelation on Netflix that Kevin Smith wrote. I loved it. It showed like what would happen if Skeletor won. It was amazing. I don't know if you guys ever got a chance to see it, but it's incredible. So now that's all the background. Let's actually break down this trailer. We're going to do all still frames for this. Like I said, we're not doing super chats. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments as we go along. First of all, Eternia, baby. I don't know if you were a kid in the 80s and you saw that Masters of the Universe Dolph Lundgren movie. I was always disappointed that we didn't get actual Eternia. You know what I mean? Like we kind of got this like barren, gray looking world that was not really Eternia. This looks like Eternia from the 1980s and from the cartoon. And then we see Sorceress in her bird form, pretty much exactly accurate to the show and the comics. Flying through Eternia. Now, I don't remember the sorceress's name when she's a bird. If she does have a particular name, let me know. It just now occurred to me, I think she might have had a different name, but I might be thinking of Teela's bird as well. How awesome does Grayskull look? Like, I remember my whole childhood wanting to see this portrayed on screen, and that just looks like Castle Grayskull, like straight out of the cartoon, straight out of my childhood. And there's an interesting detail about Castle Grayskull I noticed. I want to point out to you guys and see what you think in a little bit. And this is the Royal Palace of Eternia, where King Andor and Queen Marlena and Adam grew up. So the weird detail that I noticed, you can see it here. It looks like, you can see on the right-hand side, the Castle Grayskull is on a bridge that joins the castle. And this is obviously very different from the original show, where Castle Grayskull was far away from the castle. Like they had to like travel a ways to get there. There's also this little interesting bit of architecture with an arena and a map in the middle that we'll talk about in just a second. But I thought that was an interesting detail. Maybe they're doing that to consolidate the geography in the movie. So when Skeletor takes over the castle, like we'll see in a second, he doesn't have to go too far to get to the Castle Grayskull. It's all just sitting right there. There's the Sword of Power. And we also see just how, God, man, that is like exactly how you pictured it. That's how we thought it was going to look in the 80s TV movie. And moving on now, this is where we see the palace under attack. You can see like there's plumes of smoke in the background. These are all of the kings of Eternia past. And then this is the better look at the inside of Castle Grayskull. I don't know, like I'm assuming if you've watched this, you're pretty familiar with the lore of Masters of the Universe. So I'm not going to get into like why the castle exists and what it was before. We'll save that for our like big breakdown video. And let's see here. Okay, so far nobody's told me that there's any tech problems, so I'll assume that we're doing just fine. And moving on, we got Prince Adam as a child. So there's a pretty cool detail about this I'm going to show you guys later on. Maybe I'll just skip right to it. So Prince Adam, I don't know if you guys knew this, but originally in the show, they wanted to show him like super skinny. He was supposed to be like a skinny guy. So when he transformed into He-Man, it was going to be like an actual change, but it was too expensive for the animation. So they just had Prince Adam look exactly the same. That's why in the 2000s He-Man, Prince Adam is like a little kid. And here, obviously, this is a look at Adam later on where he's wearing this like accurate to the original show, silly, ridiculous costume that he wore all the time. Now, then we see Adam in our world on Earth. Now, I don't know about you guys, but at first I was worried about this when this came up in the trailer because of that stupid Dolph Lundgren movie, which to save money took place on Earth and cast Courtney Cox as a regular person with a musician boyfriend. So my first thought was, oh my God, it's going to be on Earth. But the way they've set this up is perfect, because Queen Marlena sends him there. And she does this because I think as we see here, it looks like the royal palace of Eternia is fallen to Skeletor. It's kind of like what we saw in Revelation where Skeletor wins, where they have to hide Adam. They have to hide the sword because the sword is the key to entering Castle Grayskull. And of course, Castle Grayskull, if you enter it, you can become the most powerful person in the universe, which is what Skeletor wants. So that explains why Queen Marlena sends him to Earth, because remember, she's from Earth. Queen Marlena, she is actually originally an astronaut who traveled to Eternia, fell in love with King Randor, and then they got married. Now, as they ride toward Castle Grayskull, they ride past this map, which is a map of Eternia, but this is like an insert map that came with, I think, action figures in the 2000s. And Eternia basically always kind of looks like this, but it's not like a perfect representation of Eternia. As you can see, it's like maybe half of Eternia is represented here. I think traditionally it was usually like Castle Grayskull, Randor's palace were on one half of Eternia, and then Skeletor's Snake Mountain was on the other half. I could be wrong about that, though. Some of this I'm just like riffing because it's my memories of like how much I very, very, very much loved like these comics as a kid. I don't know if you guys have this. It's not an ad, but these are like the original comics that came with the action figures. It's one of my favorite things. And some of them are drawn by Mark Teixeira, written by J. Michael Straczynski. Some real talent, like got their experience, their first experience doing this. Okay, next we got Adam in the city working an HR job, kind of like, like Bob in The Incredibles. And then they have his name tag. I thought it was funny that they put he, him pronouns because it's a way of foreshadowing he will become He-Man. I don't think they cast Sashir Zameda in this movie if she's just at the beginning. I think that what's going to happen here is that Skeletor does get to Earth. There's hints later on we see Beastman on Earth. And I think that's what pulls Prince Adam to Castle Grayskull and to Eternia. I personally think we might see a bookend. I think it might begin and end in Earth. And we see that he is looking for his sword. Now, this is what I meant earlier when I said that he was probably sent to Earth with the sword. You need the sword to open Castle Grayskull. And as a result, they would have sent the sword with him, but then it would have become separated for some reason. We don't know why. I do think it's hilarious. It ends up in like a nostalgia store, like a novelty store. And if you look, the mannequin they have holding it looks really similar to the original design for He-Man. This is like the very first concept they came up with. One of like a lot of really cool Easter eggs tied to the action figures that we're going to see as we go along. And here we get our only look at the sorceress in the trailer. Not a very good look, but we see her from far away. If I had a guess, I would say this is her like enchanting Prince Adam, young Prince Adam, to go to Earth. And then he'll, of course, spend like the rest of his adulthood and childhood trying to get back to where he came from. Then we see Teela, who also looks very accurate to what she wears as an action figure. It's interesting because she also would, like in early action figures, had that snake armor, which I don't have a picture of. So I wonder if they're going to have her wearing that at some point. And then we get this look at like and this guy, I mean, come on, look at this. This just, I looked at that and I was like, well, that's what I expected when I was a kid. That's what I mean. This trailer dropped this morning. I knew we had Darth Maul coming out. We're working on Wonder Man, but I was like, I got to talk to you guys about this because I'm so excited about this movie. or at least I became more excited after watching this. So let's go through some of these guys that we see right here. On the left, I thought this was Roboto. I don't know if you watch Rick and Morty, but I think he was the inspiration for Gearhead in that. And then, of course, we have Man-at-Arms. And I did have the cast members. I didn't prepare it for this, so I'm not going to go through the cast just yet, except for one guy. And then we have Battle Cat. So it's interesting because Battle Cat, as you guys know, was always cringeor, and he was cowardly, and, oh, I don't know, He-Man, until he transformed into Battle Cat. And then he was all like ready to tear shit up. I'm wondering if we see Cringer when Adam is little, if he's like his little talking cub. Because in the narration, he does mention like talking tigers. But then when he's older, he doesn't have to transform into Battle Cat. He just is kind of a badass already. That's my guess, at least. And then we see the aftermath of a battle. And I just thought this was interesting from a plot perspective. It's also very quickly, probably a good thing that they didn't dress Teela in the same outfit she wore, like basically a bathing suit that she wore as an action figure. So this to me looks like Skeletor has been trying to get into Castle Grayskull. He can't penetrate it because he needs the sword. And they're seeing the aftermath of like one of many battles that's probably raged over the years. This is a ship I think Skeletor's forces are flying. I could not place it. I was trying to remember if there is like a giant rotating thing that stood on its end, but maybe I was thinking of this Roton, which I didn't have as a kid, but a friend of mine did. It was awesome. So if you guys know what that particular vehicle could be, let me know. I'm pretty sure it's a bad guy vehicle. And there's other vehicles and things like that we'll talk about in just a second as we go along. Now, this is the look of Eternia that I was talking about a second ago. And this tower that's next to it, this is like next to Randor's Palace. It's between this arena and Castle Grayskull, like we talked about earlier. I wonder if this is related to these three towers. So this was something that happened later in He-Man when these three towers appeared. And I personally, my family, I had so many He-Man toys. That one was way too expensive. Like I had Grayskull and Snake Mountain. That one we just could not afford. So I'm curious if you guys had that. So I'm not as tied to the lore in that, but it is in this comic, and it's a whole deep story that we will talk about when we get closer to the release, when I've had time to research it more, because I don't remember much about those, but it seems to me like this design could have been at least inspired by that. Now this shot is like the Kill Bill shot. You can see here Teela, Adam, Man-at-Arms walk in the foreground. And I love this so much because it's loaded with action figure Easter eggs. The guy on the left is probably Mechaneck, who's got the lamest power. His neck extends, but he might also be Stratos. It's kind of hard to tell. I doubt if he's Stratos. I kind of threw him in there at the last minute. And of course, you guys recognize this dude next to him. That's Ram Man. J. Michael Straczynski, I read an interview with him once in Wizard Magazine. He was talking about how when he wrote for the show, he had a song about Ram Man he sang that he would sing that goes, "Who's that man with the head of lead? It's Ram Man," to the tune of Bonanza. You can see why I'm a YouTuber and I don't sing for a living. So let me check real quick, see if we've got any chats. Nope. Eternia Towers. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And I'm sure people are going to flood the comments with lore about those in a second. This was a really deep cut Easter egg, another toy that I personally didn't have. This is Skeletor's Collector that's landing. They called it the Collector because it could grab on to like different people. You see it grabbing onto Man-at-Arms here. And then we got our first look at Skeletor, which again, all due respect and love to Mr. Frank Langella, who played Skeletor. That's the best they could do back then. But this is incredible. And he's Jared Leto, not my favorite actor, not the most box office bankable actor. But, you bury him under some CGI face. Who knows what he can do? I don't know if Jared Leto is great casting. For me, if you're going to do this to him anyways, you might as well have had Mark Hamill do it, because Mark Hamill voiced him in the new one, Revelation on Netflix. But then we get some really deep cut Easter eggs. I expected to see like Merman and stuff, but we get Spycore. Who would have thought we'd see Spycore in this trailer? And then this is two of my all-time favorite figures that I had, right? Fisto. And I fully recognize as an adult, he's got a funny name. So have fun with that in the comments. This is Mephisto, Mrs. Fisto. I keep wanting to say Mephisto, not the bees. And then we got He-Man fighting Trapjaw. And of course, you guys remember Trapjaw, also a guy in the 2004 revival whose action figure was awesome. And this guy had like interchangeable mechanics on his arm. And here you can see he's using the classic hook, which I think was his default setting when you bought him. Beastman looks amazing. So this shot is what made me think that, yes, probably Beastman is sent to Earth to collect Adam. Adam maybe gets the sword, but he can't use it to get back. So Beast Man is sent after him because as soon as Adam touches the sword, it sends a beacon to eternity or whatever. Or this could be from the climax. Just a reminder, this was Beast Man in the original show. Oh, God, and this one. And that's Beast Man from the 80s movie. God, we've really come a long way. Evelyn gets a shout out right here in the, well, I don't want to spoil it. She's got a really cool role in the Revelation movie. If you guys haven't seen it, you really should. Now, speaking of cool vehicles, though, this is the Talon Fighter, which I'll show this one first. Those are Talon Fighters. They're King Randor's like Air Force. So the fact that Talon Fighters are around maybe means that Skeletor doesn't conquer King Randor's palace just yet. Maybe he launches an assault after assault. They think they're going to lose. So they send Adam and the sword away. And then doing that, they save the castle. Because years later, we see these Talon Fighters. But these designs are a little less bird-like. They're a little more designed after. This is from the mid-2000s revival of He-Man that came out. And then this is Battle Cat, right? So I looking at the shot earlier, it was hard to tell if he was much of a saber-toothed tiger. But God, that looks amazing. And I'm like that they're holding back with some things. Like we're not seeing Battle Cat in like full armor just yet. But even that little bit right there got me excited to see him. And I want to know in the comments right now, how did you guys feel when you saw this? You know, this is like, again, in the 80s, when we had the Dolphin. I hate to keep harping on this, but like this is like childhood dream fulfilled for me. We never got this. We never got Prince Adam. We never got every kid who grew up in a certain time period and place did this, right? We all would grab like a paper towel roll, hold it up and be He-Man and go through the whole thing, you know, where you hold it up in the air and then you hold it out. Like we all did that. You turn your cat into Battle Cat, he runs away from you, etc. And I just like love how faithful this is. You know, like you can hear the music. You can actually hear the theme in your head when you look at these visuals. And speaking of which, I mean, this guy looks awesome. There's a lot of lore behind Skeletor. I'm not going to dive too far into today, but like I personally like went down a deep He-Man rabbit hole recently. I did not realize until very recently that Skeletor is actually, there's like a blue race of Eternians with blue skin. He's one of them. And then the face, the skeletal face happened like in an accident or it was a curse. If you guys remember, let me know in the comments. I do, however, know a lot about the lore. Like he was an underling for Hordak, who is, of course, on Etheria, and he's like She-Ra's worst enemy. I have a long-standing theory that Hordak is by far superior to Skeletor because Hordak has conquered the entire planet of Etheria. And by the transference property, I think that She-Ra is a more powerful hero than He-Man because she was taught to fight by Hordak. She was raised as his daughter. She's also got a better sword because it has like empathetic powers and stuff. And I'm not saying that because, you know, She-Ra's a woman and I'm trying to be all equal. No, just watch the shows. The first episode with She-Ra clearly establishes she's a more powerful character than He-Man. We do have a couple super chats. I'm going to try to answer those guys. But like I said at the start, I thank you for the super chats. I might not be able to get to them. We do have that as all who said, I feel like we'll see Jared Leto as Keldor in some of the flashback battles. Keldor, thank you so much. Keldor was his name before he transformed into Skeletor. Very much appreciated. And I think you're probably right. I think we're going to see the history of that because why else would you cast one of the most recognizable people on the planet as Skeletor? Then there's this shot, which like this battle at the end where he has he turns into He-Man. He's actually fighting him. Skeletor has his staff with the ram head. Also Snake Mountain. I love that they went the direction with Snake Mountain. Notice that like the landing platform is the tongue of the serpent. It's even forked at the end. I love that they went animated show with Snake Mountain because I don't know about you guys, but I loved my Snake Mountain playset. It had trapdoors, a microphone, all that stuff, but it didn't look like the one in the cartoon. And that's what we're actually getting here. All right. That's all the breakdown for now. I want to go through and just look at a couple of these super chats you guys have been nice enough to send. We've got the Sorcerer Supreme gave us $5. Thank you. Shock, the trailer looks so good. Getting a Dungeons and Dragons vibe. Member berries definitely hitting for me too, man. Like, again, it takes a lot. Like, I do this for a living, right? I watch movies and TV shows and break them down and analyze them. It takes a lot to really get me in the feels. And this trailer did it. Like, it completely got me. I just think it looks awesome. The Amazing Manimal, great name, said, hello, I grew up with Masters of the Universe and He-Man. I am optimistic about this film. The designs are great. Frankly, they set the bar so low for us in the 1980s, if you were around, that it's hard to not beat that. But that's for live action. I should also say that the animated revivals, the Cartoon Network one in the 2000s didn't last long. They were all great. And they have such a rich lore. And I'm sure a lot of you guys know this because if you're probably like a massive Masters of the Universe fan if you're watching this trailer video. But one thing I love about these comics is when they created the action figures, they were action figures first, right? They did not have like an existing lore to pull from like the Marvel toys or the DC toys. So they had to invent lore, which is why they made these comic books. And then that, of course, like they made a TV series, but originally the toys came out before the show. So the only way we were able to know what the hell was happening and like who these characters were was by reading these. And the cool thing about this book is, again, I'm not getting paid to sell this book. There's no links to it below. But the cool thing is you actually see how they meet different characters, which we don't get to see in the show. We see like the origin of Ram Man, where he and He-Man fight at first. It's a really cool book. And again, I think this trailer looks awesome. I am so excited about it. We're going to cover it when it comes out in April. We've got a lot of other stuff coming out on the channel. Like I said, we've got our trailer for Maul Shadow Lord, which is about to come out any minute now. And we're doing a live stream tomorrow. We're going to have Tommy and a special guest while Colton's out. Can't wait for you guys to see that. And so if you want to let me know what you thought of the trailer, you can, of course, let us know in the comments on our free-to-join Discord server. Or I now have a Substack where I write occasionally and do different things I don't do on the channel. So if you subscribe over there, I'd really appreciate it too. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.